Hey everyone, what is going on? And welcome back to the channel. My name is Hart for those of you that are new, and I'll be breaking down this 7 game NBA slate here for Friday nights. This will be uploaded either Thursday night if my internet is not complete crap once again. Otherwise, this will be uploaded Friday morning. But as always, stay up to date with the injury news. I'll be talking through my favorite core plays as well as some value plays and a potential lineup build for you guys here, breaking down the whole slate of everything you need to know. Ton of injury news here, but once again, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe. Do really appreciate all the supports. And the Patreon will be back starting tomorrow. So definitely check that out, guys. I think it's one of the best values on the entire industry. I know that's a little biased because it's mine, but it's only $10 for the month, and you guys will be getting. This is a sneak peek of what you guys will be getting. So it'll be a whole in-depth breakdown of the slate. As you guys can see, I'll have all the key injury news up top here, as well as the games, the game total, the spread, and then kind of what I like from each team. So for here, as you can see, I have the Bucks. My thoughts kind of on how the game, how you want to attack it, how I think it will go, as well as the projected lineup, and then kind of my interests, the breakdown there for each team. As you guys can see here, who's out, I'll highlight that as well. I'll do that for every single game, as you guys can see, scrolling down every single game, every single matchup, talking through, more in-depth breakdown than what I can do for the videos, just because I don't want to drag the videos on for too long, because they've been pretty long for the start of the season. So I'm gonna drop the videos down to about 10 minutes for smaller slates, 15 for mid-sized slates, like the top slates, the big slates, like 12, 13 game slates. Those will be about 20 minutes max. So all my more in-depth breakdown will be on this page here on my Patreon, which you guys can find linked down below. But yeah, as you can see, I do it for every single game on the slate. And then I'll put my core plays in there, and then I'll put any price pick plays I go with as well. And then I will also be including my NFL picks on it as well. So NBA picks, NBA price pick play, NBA DFS plays, NBA price pick plays, NFL picks, all that good stuff in my Patreon link down below. And here's a quick recap of my lineup for tonight. I'm like, I think like 12 points out of cashing right now. I do have more, points or excuse me, more minutes remaining than most lineups. So I do think I'll be able to easily get into cash here, as well as hopefully have a pretty solid night cashing. So the core plays, if you guys follow me on Twitter, were CJ McCollum, Dyson Daniels, Herb Jones, and then Cade Cunningham. So as you see, CJ McCollum's having a great game here. Same with Dyson Daniels, only 14% owned, which was very surprising. I know Hawkins was super, super chalky, and he's unfortunately not playing well at all. But yeah, went with Dyson Daniels there. We'll see how Keldon Johnson does. Herb Jones, a great game there. Duran, just absolutely massive foul trouble. So I originally had J-Val here, and then I had Paolo Banchero in the forward spot. And then Grayson Allen was in my guard spot over Schroeder. And then I had Maxi. So I switched off Maxi, switched off J Val, and switched off Paulo to go to Keldon Johnson, Duran, and Cade because I really like the low owned Toronto Raptors guys once we got that Duran news. Unfortunately, he's in massive foul trouble there in the first quarter. Not doing much here in the second half as well. So very unfortunate there. Same thing with Cade Cunningham. Hit 3 fouls in the first quarter there as well. So massive foul trouble, but still, I think I should be able to at least easily cash and get my money back here for tonight. Heading on over here to the 7 game slate. We do have some game totals out already, as you guys can see here. Let me scroll down a little bit. Nets Bulls, 4 point spread, 220.5 game total. Knicks Bucks, 6.5 point spread, 228 total. Wizards Heat, 9 point spread, 226 total. Warriors Thunder, 5 point spread, 228.5 total. And then Grizzlies and Blazers, 1.5 point spread, 218 total. Jumping into this first game here, we have Cleveland and Indiana. On the Cleveland side, obviously the big news here is Garland and Allen. I'm assuming one, if not both of them, will be back. They're doubtful slash they're out every single game so far. Obviously Garland played the first game, but then he's been out since, and then Allen's been out since. It's a huge upgrade to see them questionable now instead of listed, immediately out. So I would not be surprised here if one of them or both of them are in. And if that's the case, no real strong interest for me in any of these players. They'd just be more so contrarian plays. They're all kind of priced up way too high, just due to Garland and Allen being out and a ton of usage going around. So if they're both in, no real interest in Cleveland for me. They'd just be more so contrarian plays. Now, if one of them or both of them out, we know who to get to. Obviously, Donovan Mitchell will be the main star, the main focus. Mobley will be the second star there, who has been pretty up and down, but still would have a lot of interest in both of them. I would love Karis LeVert there at that price tag. Struce, same thing. shooting, score independent, but still ton of upside there with him in his shooting and rebounding. And then Okoro would be a pretty solid play. I don't think we need to get to any of the values, but yeah, we kind of know what to do there with Cleveland. On the Indiana side, the big news here is Halburn. Jalen Smith is news as well. I will talk about that here in a second. But yeah, right now, if Halburn is going to go, it's really just going to be Halburn and Turner for me. They'll kind of control the team in terms of usage. Halburn does have really good upside. One of my favorite young players in the league. If he's out, then we can look to a guy like Nemhard, who is 5K here. Obviously, there's a little bit more blowout risk if there's no Halburn, but Nemhard should see probably mid 20s, if not 30 plus minutes in a close game here. Pretty productive player, does have double upside. So I'd really like Nemhard here. He'd be a core play for me if there's no Halburn. And then a guy like TJ McConnell will come off the bench and he'll play, and he's super productive. As we saw last game there, 5,200. I wouldn't mind playing both of them in the same lineup. They have that kind of upside there, and they both should see a ton of minutes if there's no Halburn. But if there's Halburn, I wouldn't mind taking a shot on Nemhard. He should see still low 20s minutes, but don't love that price tag there. And that's really it. Jalen Smith, if he's in, I think he could be a solid, dart throw play. He's been super productive and aggressive. But if he's out, it just, means more minutes for a guy like Naismith. A guy like Matherin should see a little bit more minutes. His minutes were weird that last game there. I'm not sure if he got hurt. Yeah, he did have some elbow injury. The game blew out, and they kind of limited him there. But then they'll mix in some Obi Toppin. He'll get a few more minutes there. Has not been great at all this season. And then Bruce Brown. I wouldn't mind taking a shot on him. We know he's pretty productive. But yeah, it's kind of all kind of dart throws there for me on the Indiana side. It's just really key kind of what happens with Tyrese. On the Knicks side here, don't love the price tag for Brunson, 8,300. He's pretty score independent, and 8,300 just you don't feel safe with that, especially in this matchup here. So he's more so of a contrarian play. Same thing with Randall, just hasn't been shooting the ball great. Foul trouble risk here. We know his upside is massive. So I don't mind landing on him, but still, I just don't really like the Knicks side right now, unless we get the news RJ Barrett is out. If RJ Barrett's in, no real interest in me for this team here, besides maybe taking a shot on Hartenstein if you think, Robinson or or Randall get in foul trouble trying to guard Giannis. But yeah, if Barrett is out, it should be a massive boost for a guy like Quickly, who'll be more aggressive off the bench. They'll need his scoring. Hart and DiVincenzo, one of them will move in the starting lineup. I'm assuming it'll be Hart. We've seen him have huge games over the past few seasons. I'd really like him. He'd be a core play. And then DiVincenzo, I think he'd be a great play as well. You could definitely play both of them together. They should both see mid 20s, 30 plus minutes there if there's no Barrett. And that is really it. Grimes is okay if you want to land him as a pivot play, but he's not been great. And then moving on to Milwaukee side, they've been bad the past 2 games. The offense has not been great. So yeah, I do think there'll be a bounce back spot here for them. So I do have a good amount of interest in Giannis and Dame. Middleton's still on a minutes limit. Don't love that. Brook Lopez has upside, but he's kind of been bad alongside the whole offense in a whole. I do like Bobby Portis here. The minutes have not been great. The most he's seen is 21 in a blowout there. But still, he does have some massive upside. If there's any foul trouble, they'll look to Bobby. He's aggressive off the bench. He's probably my favorite play right now if I don't get to Dame or Giannis on the Bucks side. And that's really it's here for the Bucks. In terms of value plays, there is. Sorry, I'm just trying to fix my light here. There is, Connaughton, Crowder. They'll both see low 20s minutes. Beasley does have a ceiling if he hits his shots, but it's really hard to trust that price tag. But yeah, nothing too crazy there for that game. On the Brooklyn side here, still a ton of interest in Brooklyn just because they still have Claxton, who is out for this game, as well as just want to make sure Cam Johnson is as well. Yep. So both of those guys are out, so they're still pretty shorthanded. Dennis Smith Jr., questionable as well. So we all have to keep an eye out on that news because it could affect Lonnie Walker a little bit in this guard rotation. But yeah, the main news right now is Dinwiddie. If he's good to go, I do like him here at 6,400. It does seem a little too cheap for him, even though he is pretty up and down. But still, I think it would be a little bit too cheap. And then it would be a downside to a guy like Cam Thomas there. But if Dinwiddie's out, Bridges looks great. There's a nice pivot from a chalky Cam Thomas, who was absolute massive chalk there last game, and he had a terrible game. But as you can see, that's kind of his ceiling. He can go for 36 points, 45 fantasy points, super score independent. If he misses his shots, as we saw that last game, very, very low floor. And you're not getting him at a great price tag. So for me, he's a stay away, even though it's a fantastic matchup here against the Bulls. I just don't love the price tag, and he's just extremely scoring dependent. I'd rather get Tim Bridges, pay $800 more for a guy who's way safer and still has, similar upside, if not more upside. I still really like Ben Simmons here. He dealt with massive foul trouble there, 3 fouls in the first quarter, as well as a second half injury. So I expect a bounce back game from here for him here. He does have triple double upside. Um, Lonnie Walker is a very, very strong play here if there's no Dinwiddie as being kind of that main guard off the bench. And they'll start, DFS and possibly Royce O'Neal. If that's kind of the other news I wanted to mention is that I'm assuming with Vooch on the other side, they'll need size and they'll probably start De'Aaron Sharp. If that's the case, I think De'Aaron Sharp becomes almost a must play. He's super, super productive, very, very foul prone, as we saw there versus Charlotte, 5 fouls in 10 minutes, but still very, very productive guy there if he can stay out of foul trouble. So it's to keep an eye out on that. That's kind of key news there alongside that Dinwiddie news. And then Royce O'Neal would probably be my favorite out of the Royce O'Neal and DFS situation there. And then, sure, Dennis Smith Jr. could see some minutes. He saw 16 that first game. In the third game, saw 14. So we could definitely look to him as a very cheap value play there if he is good to go. So a lot of news there, excuse me, on the Brooklyn side to keep an eye out on. On the Chicago side, I think Vooch is my favorite. He was great for me last night. He was 2% owned, and he went off for 52, a nice 52 bomb there, 21 and 20. Game before that, another 52 bomb, 24 and 17. So he's massive upside if he can hit shots. Now, I will say it's not always a guarantee that Vooch will rebound the ball. Because as you can see before that, in a smash spot against Detroit, they got blown out, and he only put up 4 rebounds. As you can see, versus OKC, only put up 11 and 9. But yeah, he has massive upside. It's a great price. Really, really like Vooch here. Like riding the hot streak once again. Back-to-back nights with him. I do like Zach into DeMar. It's really hard to get into 2 Bulls. It doesn't feel great, but one of these guys should step up alongside Vooch. They do have enough upside to go, both of them to go off, even possibly all 3. But yeah, I think it's still pretty cheap price tags for these star Bulls players. Kobe White, I think, is a strong mid-range play, 5,100. Super score independent, but still, as a main point guard, he should have that assist upside, as we saw in the first 2 games there. Caruso, fine value play. Pat Williams looks terrible on this team right now. It's unfortunate that he's played behind 3 All-Stars. Drummond, I should say ex All-Stars. Andre Drummond's a decently productive player. Torrey Craig's fine value. Not a lot for me on the Chicago Bulls side besides Vooch. Golden State and OKC. Should be a bounce back game here for Golden State. They did not play great last night against the Kings. Steph only went for 30 fantasy points. I think, Chris Paul did terrible. I am pretty sure this would load. Yeah, 19 fantasy points, 28 minutes. Klay Thompson, as you guys can see, they did not do great here. I think Draymond Green did the best, 37 fantasy points. It's all 28 minutes, which is the most he's ever seen so far this season. Coming back from that injury, did not mean to click on him again. Looney always Looney goes like prime Wilt Chamberlain whenever he plays the Kings. Makes no sense. So he also did pretty solid, but yeah, that was pretty much it. They did not do great as a team here. So should we expect a nice bounce back spot here against OKC. Love Steph. I think it's a solid price. Chris Paul seems fine. Klay Thompson, he has that GPP upside. Always going to be super, super contrarian. Draymond Green, if he's not on a minutes limit, I do think this is too cheap. Like if he's going to see about 30 minutes, I still think I have a good amount of interest in him here at 6,200. We know the upside there with him is massive. So keep an eye out on the minutes limit. Maybe it's lifted. If that's the case, Looney become more so of a contrarian play for me. Wiggins, the minutes have just been terrible on him. I don't get it. I think it just makes no sense. Steve Kerr has been going to the bench more than usual. So I think that's kind of the main reason why. Kuminga, I do have some interest in him here at 5K off the bench. Should see about 20-ish minutes, maybe a few more. But that's really it. Sarge had a huge game for them, but it's really hard to trust that. He should see about 15 to 20 minutes. I guess he's priced about right, priced fine. Moody, 15-ish minutes in that mark, 12 to 15. Gary Payton, I guess, is a decent value. You should see around 20 minutes. So nothing too crazy there for the Golden State side. On the OKC side here, SGA is out, so that's massive news. We'll have to see who they start in place of him. I'm assuming they'll go with Giddey Holmgren, Jalen Williams, Dort. And I wouldn't be surprised if they go with Isaiah Joe or Aaron Wiggins, but it's too hard to speculate just because OKC has done a lot of weird stuff with rotations in the past. But I expect Giddy to be a very, very strong player, 8,400. Really like him. I really like Jalen Williams here. Feels way too cheap here. He does step up there with no SGA. So really like him. He's a strong play. I think Chet's a fine play there, 7,600. That's about it. Dort will be a little bit more aggressive. I don't mind going to him, but you don't feel great about it. And then I do have some interest in these guards here. Like Case Wallace does feel a little bit too pricey, but he'll see minutes. And if Isaiah Joe starts, I really like him. If he comes off the bench, I expect him to be aggressive as well. So I do have a good amount of interest in Isaiah Joe there, and maybe some Wiggins if they start him. But we could also see, Trey Mann get a ton of minutes here. Hasn't played much yet, but he's one of those guys who can be very explosive off the bench. So keep your eyes peeled for this OKC news. I'd say even build your lineups with the fact that they could start Isaiah Joe, Wiggins, or Trey Mann because they'd be great value. And then, whoever they start, I still like the other two coming off the bench. So a lot of value to like there for OKC. On the Washington side here, I mean, this team is just a complete joke. I mean, down 19 points and you're throwing off the backboard alley oops to each other. It's wild. I mean, Kuzma and Poole, it's like they're playing rec league. I mean, they're getting paid what 30 plus million each just to go out there and have fun and shoot the ball 20 plus times. I mean, hey, I'd be messing around too. But yeah, this team is brutal. Would not be surprised here if this game blows out. But if it stays close, it's going to be because of Poole and Kuzma. So I think they're very strong options. Kuzma's a little bit safer because he does have that rebound and assist upside there. So yeah, I mean, fine plays. Denny's a little bit too pricey for me, even though he can kind of put up those games we saw last game in 24 minutes. Trey Jones is not aggressive enough for me offensively. If Gafford's good to go, I think he's a fine contrarian play there. We know the upside is pretty solid with him. And that's really it. It's not a ton of interest here for me. It's just pretty gross on this team overall. Miami, great matchup here. If this game stays close, really like Butler, really like Bam, and really like Hero. Out of the bunch, my favorite would probably be Bam, just because of the matchup there. They really have no big who should be able to handle Bam. So really like the spot for him. It's just a ton of blowout risk here. And that's really it. The three main Miami Heat guys, that's pretty much it. Don't think you need to force anything else. I will mention, Kevin Love down here. He should play about 20-ish minutes, decently productive, as well as, Josh Richardson saw 30 minutes in that Brooklyn game. I expect him to play about, 20 to mid-20s minutes, which makes him a fine play there at 4,000. Moving on to Dallas here. On the Dallas side, the big news there is Kyrie. He's missed the past 2 games with that foot injury. So if he misses once again, Luka, 13,000. I think that's just egregious. Way too pricey for me, especially coming off a game there where almost went for triple double, but 46 fantasy points. Don't know why they knocked him up $400 more. Makes no sense because no one's going to play him there. So if you want to play him at extremely low ownership, go ahead. But still, that's just big news there. If Kyrie's in, don't have much interest on this team. If Kyrie's out, Luka obviously becomes a very good play. It's very hard to get to that price tag at 13,000 unless you load up on those OKC value plays. Lively, he has the upside. It's just his minutes are all over the place. Super hard to trust that at 5,700. It's like a lottery ticket. Grant Williams will be a little bit more aggressive offensively if there is no Kyrie, which I guess you can go to him 4,800. Not a terrible price. You should see the minutes as well. And then, Tim Hardaway Jr. will kind of be that microwave scorer off the bench who I don't mind going to 5.5. I think is a fair price for him. Josh Green's okay. Just hasn't been aggressive offensively this year. And that's really it. They're not really playing much else. So, pretty gross team overall in terms of DFS. On to Denver here. Obviously, if there's no Kyrie, a ton of blowout risk. But also as we can see, Jokic questionable, but he should be good to go, probable. Same thing with Jamal Murray. They both should be good to go. Jokic, hard to trust. Don't love getting into that price tag of him, but we know the upside is massive. The matchup is fantastic as well. So a lot of interest in Jokic if you want to pay up for him. He looks fantastic. I'd rather get to Jamal Murray here. Still, I do think it's a little bit too cheap here. Has 50 plus upside. So he'd probably be my favorite play here on the Denver side. Gordon's fine. MPJ coming off a game, he went 2 of 11. I mean, that's just kind of what you get with MPJ. KCP is fine as well. Nothing too crazy here in terms of the mid-range plays. Christian Brown has actually been playing pretty solid. Obviously, it helped a little bit that last game that he got some extended run, but still overall, he's been playing about 20-ish minutes, been pretty productive. So I will mention him if he's good to go. If he's out, I do think those minutes will fall to Reggie Jackson. They'll fall to Peyton Watson, who could be an interesting dart throw value play down there. And then moving on to this last game here, Memphis and Portland. Probably one of my favorite, if not my favorite game to target. Memphis has been terrible. Have not won a game yet this season. Bane is pretty pricey here, but still should be the leader in the offense. Same with Jackson Jr., kind of priced out, but still they should both lead this team in terms of offense usage. I like this price tag on Marcus Smart. He should be aggressive, has good upside. This comes down to can he hit his shots. And if this game can stay close because they've been god awful. That's really it. I will mention, Zaire Williams should see some decent minutes. They've been mixing in some John Conchar, who is usually pretty productive when he's out there. David Roddy's still pretty cheap here for the amount of minutes he's getting. Not seeing a ton of shots, but still another productive player. And Luke Kennard is back here. So he did play 21 minutes, shot 1 of 9, but still, that's way too cheap for a guy who's going to see mid 20s minutes. And he's going to be very, very aggressive because they've been terrible and they really, really need his offense. So lock Luke Kennard into your lineup, guys. And then on the Portland side here, Shaden Sharp is questionable. If he's out, obviously that opens up a ton of usage and a ton of minutes to go around. But it looks like he should be good to go at that price tag. Still think he's a great play there at 7,300. He's going to be playing close to 40 minutes, and he's going to shoot the ball probably 15 to 20 plus times. Brogdon, I still think it's a very fair price tag for him. Should see mid 30s minutes, and he's just very, very productive. So that's a strong play. Grant, I still think he's a very, very strong contrarian play here. It just, he has not been the best in terms of those peripheral stats. Scoot is out, so I'm assuming they'll start maybe like a Manaya. Maybe they'll start, Mays alongside Sharp. We'll have to wait and see, but those two are pretty solid value plays down there. And that's really it. Robert Williams is there. I guess he's a fine play. I forgot to mention Ayton. He's starting to pick it up, as you guys can see. So I do have some interest in him here. But yeah, nothing too crazy. Now to fill out the rest of this lineup here, as I mentioned, a lot of news we have to keep an eye out on. So this lineup is definitely going to change by lock tomorrow. So keep an eye out on that. But moving over to point guard here, we'll just kind of go position by position to fill out this lineup. I think right now we're going to want to get to Josh Giddey there, play him alongside Jalen Williams. Then I wouldn't even mind going to a value like Trey Mann, Isaiah Joe, Aaron Wiggins, whoever starts there. But going to the center position here, I do like getting into Bam in that matchup against Washington. Should be a fantastic matchup for him. It's not like they feed Bam too. That's the only issue with Bam is it's not like they're going to feed him as the center play. He's kind of just plays in the flow of the offense. So if you don't like that, you can definitely drop down to an Aiden. Wouldn't mind that. Or even lower, you could definitely go to a guy like Bobby Portis there. Wouldn't mind him. Or even Robert Williams. But right now, obviously we have to keep an eye out on the news because Darren Sharp could become a lock and load play. But right now, let's just say we go with Bam. On to the guard position here, 4,200 left over. I think I'm going to throw in one of those OKC guards. Obviously, there's a ton of guard and value option with Portland there, with OKC, with Brooklyn, with New York Knicks, possibly with RJ Barrett. So as I said, there's going to be a lot of news here. Make sure to stay updated with me on Twitter as well as my Patreon there. But we'll kind of finish off. We'll just go with Isaiah Joe. So we'll kind of load up here on the Thunder with Giddey, Williams, and Joe. And that leaves us with 4,200 left over. Kind of nice that Isaiah Joe is guard and forward eligible here for us. Or no, it looks like he's only small forward. I don't get why DraftKings keeps switching guys' eligibility. But here at the guard position, we'll go with DiVincenzo for right now. As I mentioned, ton of news we have to keep an eye out on that's going to drastically change the starting lineup and kind of the core plays and how we want to attack the slate. But right now, I do think it's pretty safe to say that with no SGA, Giddey is a very, very good play. Same thing here with Jalen Williams. And then really, really like Vooch. So I think right now these are kind of the route I'm leaning towards. And then obviously everything else will work out in terms of kind of how we're going to attack the slate in terms of that injury news. So right now, these are kind of the early look core plays. Giddey, Luke Kennard, Williams, Bam, and Vooch. So hope you guys liked the video. Hit that like button. I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.